Welcome back to Hot Stove, presented by the General Insurance. All right, it's time for the Hall of Fame.
Like the homeboy said back home, we just chilling.
Yeah, we just chilling with the Hall of Fame spotlight, and Keith Costa's just chilling on some of this information with Bobby Abreu's candidacy. Almost 20 years in the big leagues, Keith, a career .291 hitter. Is that enough to put him in the building?
Yeah, well, first of all, nice to have another Bobby Bo involved in the segment. Nice symmetry there, Maddie. I appreciate that soundboard drop. But Bobby Abreu, rather, is one of the more popular candidates on the interwebs if you are into that kind of thing. He's got a big movement on Twitter going, but you see the totals here in the tracker, just 20%. He hasn't cracked 10% on the actual ballot yet in his first 3 years on, trending upwards, but facts are facts, and you need 3 out of 4 voters to believe you're in. At this point, more than 3 out of 4 voters believe he is not. But we'll present the case for him anyways. 14 straight years in the heart of his career. He averaged 155 games played per season. So, all right, we'll start here. 7 or more seasons with 5+ WAR. His first 7 seasons in the big leagues, he put up 5 WAR. And you see the company that keeps him in having those totals through age 30 season. It's basically all first ballot Hall of Famers or guys that are out for reasons that we've been over before. Now, back to what I was saying before with the games played. Just the fact that he was able to stay on the field and be as durable as he was. Like I said, 155 games played for a 14-year stretch. That's his career total, 24-25. You got to be pretty good to play that many games. Only Johnny Damon is not a surefire Hall of Famer on that list of the company he's keeping. Now, how about his slash line? You mentioned the .291 average, Maddie, a .395 on base percentage, .475 slugging percentage. That's the company he keeps there. Now, standard disclaimer here, when you do these kinds of lists, by definition, the player you're talking about is going to be the lowest man on the totem pole because those are the minimums you start with. But still, an interesting group of players to compare him to when you think about what he was able to do in terms of hitting for average and getting on base. You want something more traditional? How about RBIs? 7 straight seasons with 100+ RBIs. Only 4 guys have done it since. And again, pretty impressive company for Abreu.
This is pretty good stuff, Keith.
It is. It's compelling. I think we could probably do this with a lot of players to make the case. And Bobby Abreu was a great hitter. He was an all-star twice. He played for 19 years. He finished with fewer than 2,500 hits. If you look at, and Keith, I know you've accessed this a number of times before because we've talked about this on Baseball Reference, and this isn't gospel, it's just interesting food for thought. They have similarity scores for players. And for Bobby Abreu, the 10 similarity scores for him are all really great, flattering comps. All excellent players. Louis Gonzalez, Garrett Anderson, Bernie Williams. None of the players on the similarity score ranking for Bobby Abreu are Hall of Famers. So the suggestion that Bobby Abreu was a great player, but maybe not a Hall of Famer, is what I'm taking off of the Baseball Reference similarity score.
I would agree. Maybe top 2% instead of top 1%, which is really the conversation you're having about some of these borderline candidates. Not an insult, maybe just short.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Where's your...
That's what's rough about this time. You almost feel like you're slamming a guy's career. It's nice. He had a really nice career.
Awesome career.
Fantastic. I want to go to the home run derby. Remember when he was in the home run derby?
Oh, yeah.
And that's when I think a lot of people...
Didn't he win one?
He went off. I mean, Bobby Abreu went off in this one here in 2005. And I just think when he put on this show, everybody kind of went, wow, this is Bobby Abreu. It was almost like he jumped on the map for so many people. But you don't go to the Hall of Fame for winning the home run derby.
No.
You know, but that was an impressive time that
you know, we got Mark Feinsand with us, who is an actual voter in this process. So let's go to Mark for his take.
Where's he at, Mark?
Abreu. Where are you with Abreu?
I did not vote for Bobby Abreu. I have him in that borderline really, really good player category. But played an offensive era. When you look at some of those numbers, they look impressive, right? All those 100 RBI seasons. Only was in the top 10 in his own league in RBIs twice. Never finished higher than 7th in WAR in his own league. So I thought he was a really good player who never really excelled amongst the top players in the game. Never finished in the top 10 for the MVP. I believe he was 1 Gold Glove, 2 All-Star appearances. So really good player, and there are some certain, one of 6 players ever with 250 home runs and 400 steals. But I also look at his career in sort of 2 parts. From 97 to 04, he had a 931 OPS. He was a 300, 400, 500 slash line guy, and you're going, wow, that guy's putting up Hall of Fame numbers. But then in the back end, 05 to 2012, the OPS was 817, and the numbers weren't that 300, 400, 500. So really good player, doesn't quite get there for me.
I just think, again, I say this all the time, you got to caution people with when guys played. Slash line didn't matter, neither did OPS in the times when he was playing. Those matter now. So you take those numbers, you throw them into today's thinking, you go, wow, unbelievable. But when you're playing in that time, they're sitting there going drive-in runs, not worried about your slash lines. You got a certain job to do where you're hitting the order. And I think that comes back to play. And I think that's why he hadn't got the traction in years past, because he was lumped in with the guys he played with, like you described it.
But again,
now we pulled him out, and we're dropping him into today's numbers, and he's skyrocketing.
And again, when you talk about, driving in runs, yeah, he drove in 100 runs a bunch of times, 7 times, I think he'd said, but only twice that was good enough for the top 10 in his own league. So he's playing in an era where a whole lot of guys are driving in 100 runs.
Yep.
And you have to sort of put that in context amongst, who he played with and who he played against. I covered him for a few years in New York with the Yankees. Never during that time did I think I'm watching a Hall of Fame player. And that was during that back end of the career that I was talking about. Yeah. So, if I had covered him in his prime in Philly, I may feel differently. But I think when you look at the whole scope of his career, really, really good player. I understand those who believe that he has a legitimate case. I think he falls just a little bit short.
Yeah, let's take a look at the numbers for Bobby Abreu. Mark, thank you. And he is one of the players who's, I don't know, I don't want to say flatline because, we're still under 10%.
He's going to get some steam. Again, guys have gone off the board. I think you have new voters looking at different ways.
Yeah.
And he'll take off.
And you're right, because the current tracking numbers are at about 20%. So he's up from those totals that we showed you over the past couple years of his being on the ballot.
New thinking got Tim Raines in the Hall of Fame. They kind of went back and went, hold it, time out. We missed something.
Right,
here
we're looking at accumulators, right? Raines was an accumulator, massive totals because he played so long. I'll say this, that if you looked at Bobby Abreu's Winter League numbers, the numbers would be even more impressive, right? Look at the numbers across 4 seasons in the Winter League, right? I mean, an OPS plus of 112, and there are a lot of guys who watched him there.
I used to be one of those other guys, Matty.
Yeah, who played with him in Caracas.
I played with Bobby Abreu in Caracas.
That's right, in Caracas. Okay, that's
too funny. I was wondering where you were going with that.
So it makes me smoke.
You are smoked, D-Row. So is your wife, by the way. Let's go. Let's take a break before we do any more of that nonsense. Lauren has some more nonsense set up. In fact, this is going to be fun. Notable free agents. Lauren kind of promised this earlier. If we were to play GM for a day and assemble our own free agent superstar team, what would those names look like on our roster?
Wow.
We'll have that fun next on Hot Stove.
It's going to be a tough one.
Yay!